Good morning. I am just checking in a couple minutes early. We're going to be meeting with Peggy Matheson in about, I just noticed, about 7 minutes. So I wanted to just jump on real quick and say good morning. And gosh, it's early. So if anyone woke up this early, I'm glad you're here. I usually wake up fairly early, but this morning or last night, I got to bed a lot later than I usually do. So anyway, so this is what I wanted to jump on to say is that today we're going to talk about getting to know ourselves. That's the very first step in connecting with anyone in relationships. And the Dr. John Van Epp is he's the author of How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk. But he's the one who came up with the model, the relationship attachment model. And in that model, he talks about different phases that you need to go through in order to build a strong connection with someone. And I believe that it's no different with ourselves. I believe that we should work on becoming our own best friends. You're the only person that you will be with from every minute of your life, from birth to death. Such a profound statement, I know. But really, if you're not happy with yourself for any reason, then you're in a miserable place. You're living your life with someone who doesn't like you. So that's what we're hoping to change. At least start changing this week in helping ourselves as well. It's close to starting. Let me make sure that Peggy has the link. And so, hi, Coach Peggy, she's here. Good morning.
Hi.
Let's see, I'm gonna have to turn this up just a little bit. I met with and on a different call last week, and we did an amazing video. I thought conversation and the things that you talked about, and for some reason it was not allowing me to post it. So if I can get that figured out, and I really think it's memory, that's what it was saying, is there's not enough space, but I'm able to post some other things. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll figure that out. I will get it posted because it is great. And Peggy, Coach Peggy, talks about the book that she wrote, and she talks a lot about the reasons why she's in practice. And gosh, this fly. Of course, I have a little friend to join me in our meeting today, little fly friend. But anyway, yeah, I will get that posted, and we'll let people know more about you. But if there's anything you want to say about yourself or what you do, or why would we how do you know these things, basically, is what I would ask.
Oh gosh, wow. I've been on a healing journey for a long time. I mean, personal growth is my middle name.
Okay.
So I was in a 34-year marriage, and I thought we were both about personal growth, but turns out it was just mostly me, and that was a facade for him. But I really wanted to become my best self, and so I dove in, and I've done a lot. I mean, I went through a program called The Journey, and I became a practitioner about 15 years ago, and it has changed my life.
So good. And that's the kind of stuff we want to hear. How do we change our life in those ways that have you been helped? So grateful to you for sharing these things. And that's what Coach Peggy does. She coaches people on the things that she has learned. And I know for a fact that she does change lives. She has a huge impact, a huge influence on many, many people. So I was partially regretting that we didn't do this at a different time, when we could have more of a live audience or people participating. People can go back and watch the recorded video of this. But there are, for a couple of reasons, I chose to start extra early. So Peggy, thank you so much for being willing to come on early. I don't know how much you said you're kind of an early bird. You like to wake up early. I don't know. Were you okay this morning waking up so early?
I was okay. It all depends on how good a night's sleep I have, and it's always the same.
Yeah, that's me too. Usually I wake up at 4 o'clock and I'm just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But this morning I went to bed, I think at about 1 o'clock. And so I said, oh, I get about 5 hours of sleep. So yeah, some mornings are a little easier than others for sure. But I'm just glad to be here, Peggy, and I'm so thankful that you're here to do this with us. We're going to talk a little bit about our personality test, the Enneagram. We'll break through that. And any other insightful information that you have, just you can tell us anything that comes up for you.
Well, I wanted to share this because this is in my heart. It's always been in my heart, and since I've become single, which has been about 2.5 years, I really have had a strong desire to help people understand how important it is to have emotional health. And I actually was reading it. Can you hear me? Are we? Uh-oh. There's been a lag. Can you hear me?
Hi, I'm sorry. I can now. Yeah, there was a little bit of a lag. It might be my Wi-Fi connection. It's possible, but hopefully it'll be okay. Yes, you have to repeat what you just said. Yeah.
So, let's see. I think we've still got a crazy connection.
Yeah. Shoot. It gets funny sometimes, but if you just want to keep going, we can fill people in. If someone says I missed that, we can get it in comments.
Okay.
And some things might, so if you want to just keep going, it's fine, and then people can fast forward, a little too. That's also an option. We'll just keep going. That's okay.
Okay, so I've been reading this book by Dr. Neil Warren, who started eHarmony. He's a psychologist who's worked for 30 years with couples, and he has all these dimensions that are important for marriage. And he said the number one dimension is emotional health. That is the number one most important thing. So I love that you're doing this. I think it's super important. And this is what I felt. And having done so much healing work over the years, and then, now being in a situation where I'm single and seeing a lot of other singles, I'm like, wow. And I knew that I needed to do the work, the healing work and the trauma work, healing and all of that. And so luckily I had all the tools to do that, the people to help me with that. So I think it's super important. And I think it's super important we reach out and get help. And we get knowledge and understanding and emotional intelligence. It's such an important thing. So very important. So anyway, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. So I think this is going to be a leg up for a lot of people if they'll take advantage of it. So anyway, that's kind of, but in my training, I do the emotional healing work that I've done that really helps with healing trauma and all of that is called The Journey, and it's a restorative guided meditation, and it taps into the part of us that's already healed and whole inside of us, and that better part of us to help us and to give us resources and to help clear out anything that's not been processed through, connecting the left and the right brain so that we can move on instead of getting stuck, which we do. A lot of us get stuck, and that's where the pain and the feeling not good enough and all of the ego games, which is the Enneagram, playing ego games, that's where those all start to really take control, and we lose the feeling of joy and freedom and being present in the moment. So it's a really great tool to help us to get present and live in joy. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I hate to interrupt. I want you to just go free to say your thoughts. But sometimes I'll have a thought to interject. So I apologize.
No, I want you to do that. That's good.
Well, I did want to tell you my my reason for choosing this. I know I met online just through singing. Actually, I love that. He's a Christian that is out influencing the world. He's out sharing his story, and his story is that he he was a sex addict, and I don't think gives himself that label, but a sex addiction. And he's had a few relationships that were destroyed because of his behaviors. And he is in a place of heartbroken and ready to, like, I want to get rid of this. And he said, of all of the counseling and all of the support groups that I went to, all of the ways that I was working to get out of this and stop hurting people, the people that I love, I wanted to find an answer. And his very first step was doing the Enneagram test and understanding himself, why he does what he does, but understanding himself completely to the point where he is like, he loves it so much that he's out coaching, like you, he's out coaching other people. But his story is amazing. I mean, he obviously talks about his redemption, his healing through the Savior, and of course that is ultimately where a lot of that power comes from, in the healing and overcoming. But it started for him. It started at the test, and so that's a huge testimony, I guess, of this personality test. That, and not more than just a personality test. You'll definitely explain more about that. But I only wanted to interject that because anyway, these personality tests, sometimes people might think, yeah, it's fun, to go through, and it might, be a little fun challenge or whatever, but it's meaningful, and it is life-changing when you can understand yourself. And this is a really good way to gain those insights. So I'm sorry, I should have said that at the first, but that's anyway, I want you to just carry on and do, and I will try to not interrupt you.
No, you're fine. No, totally fine. Yeah. This is such a powerful tool. Now, I was not trained by the Enneagram Institute that has that test online that you're talking about. But I was trained through the Journey, which is the guided meditation that I do. And it was the initial training was 8 days.
Oh, wow.
In person. And they went through all the processing work that I do now. And we just dove in, and it took everybody a while to figure out where they land, kind of where they sit the most, because there's 9 different types, which, let me just show you this picture. Maybe
yes.
Can you see that?
I can. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 9 different types. It's basically a triangle. So right here's a triangle, and all this around it is showing the movement. That you move from one to another, but they're numbers. They're numbered, but there's also some names, and we can go over those. But I mean, it took us 8 days, and some people didn't even didn't really know exactly where they sat the most. So we all have a little bit. We can all kind of be in any different place, but we tend to lead out with 1 or 2 of the personality types. And this self-knowledge and knowledge to help us understand in our relationship is so powerful. When I finished that retreat, I was like, everybody on the planet needs to do this. Because you realize that we call them ego games. They're just ego games, and they're not who we really are. And the beautiful thing is that we are not our thoughts, and we're not our emotions. And we buy into those things all the time. Yeah. And we end up playing these ego games, and it's all about wanting to control our lives, control ourselves, control other people. And it's just not the truth. The truth is that we are divine beings. Yeah. And that we're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions, we're this truth inside of us, and we have this wholeness and this capacity to be this amazing, open, free, joyful soul. And so these ego games, when you understand that these are ego games, and that we don't have to buy into them, then it makes it so much easier to go, okay, I don't have to believe this thought, which, by the way, in the end, we're going to give it that tool that I was going to tell you about. And it's about our thoughts. It's about how overcoming those thoughts or anyway, we'll talk about it then. So there's the 9 different Enneagram types. And so it's a triangle, and you've got, there's 3 numbers at each triangle. So it starts with 9 at the very top, and you've got 3 on, I should probably do it the opposite way, because 3 on the one side and then 6 on the other. And those are the main points. And there's a 1 and an 8 at the top around the 9, and there's around the 3 is a 2 and a 4, around the 6 is a 5 and a 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And each point has a different kind of emotion that's connected to it. And the 9 point is anger, and the 3 at the top is anger. And shame is the 3. Should do it over this way. Trying to turn around.
Well, how are you doing it? I can see it like a clock, right? Is that how?
Yeah, like a clock, kind of. And then the 3 is the emotion point. So we call it the mind point is 6, body point is 9, and emotion point is 3. And so this is how, if you lead out with your body, and in the Enneagram Institute, they say instinct instead of body. I was taught body, but that makes sense. Your body's instinctual. So, but I call it body type, mind type, emotion type. It's how you lead out. So it's kind of fun because you can kind of knowing this now, I kind of generally know when I get to know someone, kind of get an idea of how they lead out. So and that's helpful. But the interesting thing, so in one study that one book that I read, their take was that when we came to the planet, and it's the spiritual Enneagram was, the book was about the spiritual aspect, is that we left God, and it left a hole, a God hole, and we had to fill it. And this fear is the mind type filled it with fear. They said fear for all of them. It was fear, but fear is another theory for the mind types. Shame is for the emotion types, and anger is for the body type. So we filled it with these games that we started to play so that we could try and gain some control over our life.
Oh yeah.
Try and figure out, because God's
survival, right?
Survival, yeah. So with the work that I do is you start to unravel that at the root. You start to release and let go of those things that are driving you, to create this drama. Really, is what it is. We create drama from this. And sometimes it doesn't always look like what we think. We don't always look like we're in drama. But let me just start by saying, so there are times when we're stressed and we're not, there are times when we're not stressed. And when we're stressed, we start to act more from that place of control, and the ego gets and all of that. Now, the awareness of it is super important, because it doesn't ever really totally go away. If you get stressed, you can go back there. Like recently, I've been under a lot of stress, and it's like, oh my gosh, my stuff's coming off all again. But I'm aware of it. I'm able to move through it faster. I'm able to understand, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Huge. So anyway, here's
that, Peggy. I want to actually add a little more to that, what you're saying, because I think that's so valuable. Not even just add, but just say an amen. That we're going to always have stuff that comes up. That I think people who really, even the best of all coaches out there that are helping other people, they still say that they have things that come up. It's life, but it's the tools. It's having the tools to work through them that's so powerful. So yes, there's not going to be a way, just the spoiler alert, there's not going to be a way for you to avoid all of these heavy or hard emotions or situations. But having the tools is powerful. Anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all on planet Earth. All of us are going through a journey, and life changes and situations change, and so it always have the opportunity to grow and become our best selves. And But with the tools and with the insight we gain and the understanding about ourselves, it just makes the journey much more joyful.
Yes,
Right?
yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Thank you for saying.
Okay, so we also have kind of names. I'm going to show you this
Oh,
for
yeah.
the different types.
I wonder if there's a way to, I don't know if there's a way to zoom in, but
There's
you know what we'll do? If you will snap a picture of it and send it to me, I can post it on the Facebook page.
okay.
If you want. That might be an easy way, or you can even, but then they can see it in the, maybe I could put it in the comments or something.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So like one of them, the one is the reformer, the perfectionist. 2 is the giver, the helper. And those are just 2 of the names. I've got like 4 or 5 names for each one of them. 3 is the status seeker, the performer. 4 is the artist, the individualist. 5 is the thinker, the observer. 6 is the loyalist, the doubter. 7 is the generalist, the planner. 8 is the leader, the warrior. 9 is the peacemaker, the mediator. So, so let me just tell you about me. Full disclosure. So I sit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was just a little bit of a glitch when you were saying 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
And I don't know. I imagine that is where the reception will be because I'm sending from my computer. So since there was a glitch, I kind of wonder if that was the same.
Okay. The 7 is the generalist, the planner. 8 is the leader, the warrior. 9 is the peacemaker, the mediator. So as people are listening, they're probably going, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I probably am that. And you may be some of all of them. You are, we all are some of all of them, but where you land, where you sit the most, and how you show up the most is what we're kind of looking for. Yes. So for me, I don't know if you can try and guess.
Yes. Many things. I think for sure peacemaker. I would say peace and harmony, that one.
That's when I'm not stressed. I'm the peacemaker, the mediator.
And you lead from your emotions or your heart. And yes, that's how I'd say you. So, and I can't remember the numbers again, just off the top of my head, but I would say in the emotional area for sure.
So that's interesting. That's really interesting because I'm actually a mind type.
Oh, that is interesting.
I'm a loyalist, but when I took, so I did this years ago, right? And that's where I showed up the most, but I thought I was the helper, which is a 2.
Oh yeah.
Which is the emotion point, which is the lover, which is the giver, right? Caretaker, self-sacrificer, all of that. But I sit more in the loyalist, the doubter. Fear is more of where I come from generally, but I can switch to shame. I can also go to anger too, which is the body type is the anger, and then the shame is the emotion type. So so it's interesting because when I took the test from the Enneagram Institute just last week, I came up equal parts, a 2 and a 6, which is the loyalist and the helper.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Yeah. And it shows progress in your journey, right?
Yeah.
Said, yeah. And that thing is that, and I actually would also emphasize that I have never gotten from this test or anyone who interprets it that there's a good or better way to be. It's just what it is. And you can be your best self within your type. So I also hate to categorize personalities really and say this is who they are, peg them for whatever reason, but it is helpful to know where they're coming from, and it's helpful for you to know where you're coming from in dealing, like you said, dealing with the challenges and stuff that we have.
Right. So but accessing the strengths of each personality type is what we want to focus on, unraveling and releasing the trauma or the pain, through, like for me, like with the guided meditation work, that's how I have done it, and that's how I help other people do it too, to land in a place of less stress, more peace, more choice. You have more choice how you move forward in life. But to also emphasize the positive aspects. I think we got stuck.
It's a little bit glitchy right now. That's okay. You can keep talking.
Okay, so to emphasize our strengths, to move forward in the strengths that we have, you know, with each with our personality and how we move is important. And to realize that there's, you know, there's, like you said, none of them are good or bad. But here's the thing that I think's telling, and I think might be really, really important for all of the listeners to understand, is that when you figure out what your type is, when you go through this test, now, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how accurate it is or anything. I think it was pretty accurate for me, but I also knew a lot. I mean, I knew where the questions were going because I know a lot about, you know, the Enneagram. So, so when you feel like so let me just share my own experience. When I went through my 8-day retreat, when they were going through all, and they were it was really cool. They acted out all the parts, and they talked about the different famous people that were those parts, and we just had a lot of fun with it. But when they came to the one that I sit in, the loyalist, the 6, I was like, oh my gosh, they made that sound like the worst personality of all. And I was so triggered. I was so like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst one.
Not me, yeah.
Yes. If you respond that way, then it might just be that's where you actually really do sit. But it's not that it's bad. It's just that the trigger for you is information for you to go.
Right. And that's what I wonder if it's just surprising to you, because you thought, or not just you, but anyone that sees that, they thought it was so different. Like, I thought my intentions were so different than what this test is showing me. So I'm glad you said that as well, because people might just discard it and say, that's not me, this is a stupid test. Like that's not even accurate. But it really truly is. It's actually been a test that's been around for hundreds of years, right? From what I understand, it's very, very old and very refined for sure. But I love that I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, I think it's really important too, Sherry, that we understand a really important part of working on our emotional health is understanding that when we have a trigger, and I'm not talking about like a trauma trigger, I'm talking about when you have a trigger and you kind of, it goes over and over in your mind, you get really, you know, about it, dramatic, you know, whatever. That is my work.
Yeah.
That is the key to me looking at my stuff. It's like, oh, something, I'm hooked here. I'm hooked in. Now, so you got to be really careful with this, because if it's like in my former relationship, if you're in a relationship where you're being emotionally abused, that trigger, that could be trauma. That could be spiraling you into trauma, and that's a little different. It doesn't mean that's the different thing than a trigger that's your work.
Oh, right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally does. So would you be able to explain the difference, like what it feels like, or how they would recognize it? Is this a trigger from my experience, or is this just bringing up something that's uncomfortable to me? So it might be hard to define it without knowing.
You know what? Let's see if I can. So trauma is more, trauma is fight, flight, freeze, please and appease, and collapse. So there's 5 different types of trauma. And so like anger can be a trauma response. The idea that you get getting confused, feeling like you're going crazy, anxieties kicking in, like you don't understand what just happened. You kind of freeze, you can't move, you can't think, you can't respond. Those kinds of things are trauma responses. So that's different than a trigger.
Yeah.
Somebody might trigger me. And you know, because I can swing to a 9, which is the body point, which is anger is the thing. Anger has been in the past, I didn't have, I've learned how to handle my anger much more healthily now, because that was a blessing of my marriage, is that I did learn how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, by about year, I don't know, about halfway through, I really learned how to handle my anger better. But my anger, like I start to ruminate on it. I start to try and push back. I'm like, I think about it. That kind of is kind of like a trigger where it's like, and then I start asking myself questions. What's this about?
Yeah.
You know, what does this mean about me? What am I, you know, and you start being inquiring, being inquisitive and asking yourself questions. Then you can start to go, okay, I'm hooked here. And what's the hook?
Yeah.
And that's more of a trigger where you're more present mentally, I think. You know, I've never had to describe this before, Sherry. So
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That makes sense.
yeah, but a trauma response is more like, at least for me, it's more like I'm confused.
Yeah.
What just happened there?
Yeah.
My gosh, I don't, and then I start searching, what can I do? And it's really hard to find what I can do, because it's not something that I did, something that was done to me.
Yeah.
That has left me confused and feeling manipulated, and something inside of me is going, what's going on here? Something's off. That gut, super important to follow your gut, right?
Yes. Yes.
So hopefully that's a little helpful.
It is. Yeah. And I don't know if I were to, I don't know, maybe it's not worth diving into too much more, but my thought is, if there is a lot of heavy emotions that feels overpowering to you, like you feel like you said, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to handle this, and you might feel a little like crazy making, but that might be the trigger from your experiences. You might even have a memory of, you might be able to recognize the events that happened in the past that relate to what you're feeling right now. That I think would be the emotional triggering response. And then maybe if it's something that is just like, oh, this is a yucky gut feeling, I don't want to hear this, or I don't like this, it's just unpleasant, then that might be the kind of triggering that you're being told something that you just don't want to hear. So
yeah, and I would encourage anybody who's listening to just be curious.
Yeah.
And just be observant and understand, because your body will teach you. If we listen to our emotional responses and our bodily responses, it teaches us what, I mean, it's a tool. Our body's a tool. So super important to pay attention to that. So, so everybody kind of just start being inquiring about this. What is going on?
Yeah.
And look, and so it might feel a little bit differently than what you and I have explained for each individual, but there are some commonalities. So hopefully, giving people something to
figure it out somehow. Yeah. So yeah, I don't have the answers. I'm also investigating. I'm researching on learning it. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So I would love to share this tool with you. I think people are probably like, we're done with this video and our time of social media. So I'd love to share this tool, and this would be the challenge for today.
Thank you. Yes.
We need to start using this tool and start to recognizing that we are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. We are a divine being. And those things can move through us. We don't have to land in that place. It's like a train going by. We don't have to get on the train. We can just go, oh, look, that train's going by. That thought was, I'm not good enough. Oh, yeah, I don't have to buy into that.
Observe it. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's so good.
Observe it. And, you know, this is, there's something in psychology called the observing ego. And that's a part of us that's observing what we're doing. And this tool helps us to access that part of ourselves. So I call it the chair process.
Okay.
It's really simple. I affectionately call it the mean girl or mean guy process, which is that mean voice in our head, you know, maybe, or the mean things. Because a lot of times for me, when I started using this tool, a lot of it was negative stuff. A lot of it was really, really kind of mean stuff to myself. I was saying to myself. So, but it can be other things too. It's just observing what's going on. It's being curious and observing. It's super a great tool is to be an observer in your own life. So we call it the chair process. So when you have something coming up, maybe you get triggered, or maybe you're feeling uneasy and you're like, what's going on? Or I used to do this when I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be like, what am I feeling? And I'm like, oh, I think there's some fear here. And the emotions come from thoughts. Okay. So then you put that part of you that's carrying whatever that is in a chair, and you imagine that in your mind's eye. Okay, imagine that part of you, and then you let them talk. They're going to say one sentence, and like that part might say, "You were so stupid with what you said there," and then you say, as the observer, "Thank you," and what else? And then they say, well, you shouldn't have said that. Thank you. And what else? I can't believe you should know better than that. Thank you. And what else? This is so bad. Thank you. And what else? You ruined this relationship. Thank you. What else? I can't believe how awful you are. Thank you. And what else? You know, and it just keeps going. And until there's a shift. And sometimes, like when I wake up in the middle of the night, it'd just be 1 minute and I'd be like, oh, that's what it is. Back to sleep. But I have done this. It can be a really great thing to walk, go for a walk while you're doing this and say it out loud when you or whisper it, because you're using more parts of the brain and it connects to more parts of the brain. When you speak out loud, it's the kinesthetic, you can feel it, the vibration of the voice, you can hear it, as well as you're visualizing it. So you're tapping into more of the senses, which is connecting to more parts of the brain. So if you can go walking and you say this, I did this, there's a particular time I did this where I'm walking probably about 10 minutes and I was crying by the end of it. And I was like, wow, there was a little girl inside of me that was just getting, she needed to be heard, and what she needed and wanted was not being. And I didn't realize I had all this going on inside of me. And so it was really powerful to bring that awareness to what was going on inside of me. And that's part of the beauty of what this does. Now, like I said, it tends to come to a point where it shifts and there's no more words to be said. So then you're like, okay. And so you don't have to do any more. It's just an awareness piece. Now there are some, if you're sitting in certain of the ego personality types, this may not ever stop. I have had a client in the past that she was like, it just never shifted for her. And that's partially because of the ego type that she sits in the most. And we needed to do some more process work with her. But I would say that in the majority of the time, this can be a super helpful shift and transition. Yeah. So it's just imagine that part of you in a chair, let them say one sentence, you say thank you and what else. And it's a great piece of compassion for yourself too.
Yes, that's what I love about it, is that there are these it's the validation. You're saying, I hear you. And that might be the first time in your life that you've allowed yourself that freedom to express or to feel, to feel it. So
yes, absolutely.
There
you go. So there's the challenge today, everybody.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, and we really could talk forever about this, but we'll let, for this time, this one subject, but we'll have other subjects for sure in the future. But anyway, thank you. And I've had Facebook sitting up. I just want to make sure that we don't have any more questions. But if anyone else has any more questions, you can post them in the link on Facebook, on that post, or reach out directly to Peggy. And Peggy, I have mentioned in that other video, but it still hasn't been posted, but I will try to get that up today if I can get some things cleared off my computer. I will post more ways to contact you. Do you want to just say real quickly now?
Yeah, you can peggymatheson.com, and you can get a hold of me there. You can click on any of the book now links, and if you'd like to do a free consultation with me, we can schedule that. And I work over Zoom, mostly over Zoom now. So but if you're in Utah, in Salt Lake City area, we could arrange to meet in person. So anyway, yeah, peggymatheson.com. And for my book, which is She Said, peggymatheson.com/book. You'll see my book there.
It's good. Yeah.
Which is playful and fun and poetry and drawing and very good self-care piece and just a beautiful, just me putting out the things that came from my healing journey. So, and how those came out. So. We're stuck.
It's really important things and it glitched. But I'm close to this.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, so you're
Oh, now I can't hear you. Your mute is on.
Unmute. There we go. Okay. So just to say goodbye, I didn't want to cut off, but yeah, this wonderful internet that's so unstable. Anyway, thank you, Peggy. Thank you so much. And I will post that other video. I promise. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. Whether it's putting it on YouTube and sharing it that way or whatever, but it's a good video, good information. And it also has, she's reading some of the pieces from her book, which is like She Said is the name of the book. It's awesome. And it's an adult coloring book. If you're into that kind of stuff, I am totally. I love, that's one of my ways of kind of relaxing and unwinding. At the end of the day, I'll sit and do my adult book sitting next to my daughter while she watches a movie. So we kind of do that together. Anyway, so thank you, Peggy. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And thank you for watching. Bye.